They don't support the direction of the party. They don't understand what their leader is doing. He seems to be more focused on like the Twitter influencers.
Some crazy things happening here today. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today we have some polling data that is unbelievable. That's the only way to put it. We've got pundits on CBC doing more of this. Got some updates here on Matt Generu. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we've got Polling Canada with this. Which country poses the greatest threat to Canada's security right now? We saw one of these the other day. This is similar result, 55% USA. We've got 15% China, 14% Russia, 4% India, 2% Iran. Got this one here. Mexico has surpassed Canada as the top market for US exports, data shows. I guess this is elbows up. This is what elbows up means. We got table salt with this one. Breaking. Canada announces $1,200,000 funding to stop young Muslims in the Maritimes from joining gangs. The onion has so many layers. Where do I even start? I'll start here. Why are Muslims joining gangs? This is a great question. I don't even know where to go with this. This is ridiculous. Moving ahead, we have this absolute bombshell being dropped on the Wall Street Journal here. It says OpenAI, who's the creator of ChatGPT, says employees of OpenAI raised alarms about Canada Pew Pew event in Tumbler Ridge months ago. So what happened here 7 months ago? There was a flag that automatically, I believe, went off in ChatGPT because Jesse Van Roetseler, the Tumbler Ridge monster, had been planning this. He had been running scenarios or been asking it questions on how to do this, how to carry out his actions. It got flagged in the system. It got sent over to employees. Employees reviewed it. They raised the alarms here, sent it over to the higher ups, and they decided to keep it private. Due to privacy, they did not tell the RCMP. Wall Street Journal's behind a paywall. We have it on Castanet here. OpenAI ultimately did not contact the authorities, but opted to ban Van Roetseler's account. That's right. They banned his account, but they didn't warn the RCMP or the families in that area that something might happen. This is not okay. I've been talking with some people on this. I saw a bit of pushback. I did a short on this, and there's a bit of pushback on putting in laws to protect this. And you got some people saying, well, that's privacy. But it's like, that's not how the laws work, though. If you think of a counselor, and if somebody comes into a counselor and says, hey, I'm going to end a whole bunch of people tomorrow, it's the duty of that counselor to then warn the police. There's a certain level of privacy we have in our civilization, and there's a certain level of responsibility when somebody's saying they're going to do something, well, then somebody else has to step up and warn everyone that this is going to happen. It's just like if somebody's on a plane and starts yelling, bomb, I'm going to blow up the plane, I have a bomb. You can't have people saying, oh, that person's just expressing themselves. You can't search that person. You can't take them down or tie them up or prevent them from blowing up the plane. They're expressing themselves. Privacy. Like, that's not how society works. I don't agree with the privacy argument in this. This should have been sent over to RCMP. This was 7 months ago, and that family got their pew pews back, I believe, only a few weeks before he did the event. So that would have prevented this. If they had acted properly here, there wouldn't be 8 people that have perished. Now I wonder, the families there, are they going to get together and sue ChatGPT because they knew something might happen here? And we got Mr. Bench posting this on Tumbler Ridge Lines post. The private family funeral for Kylie Smith, one of the victims at Tumbler Ridge, got canceled due to threats made to our family's safety by a very dangerous person. They're getting threats on the day of the funeral. You can't make this up. We cannot risk any further endangerment to this community. It's like, it's time to roll over, get 50 RCMP in that town and lock that place down. We need some real changes in this country and stop sending all our money over to Africa and actually start spending it where we should be having it spent, in our own country. The Liberals have ruined the lives of Canadians. It is deplorable what they've done. They've wasted so much money. We have so many problems here that could have been solved, could have been prevented. And yet people are like, elbows up. Elbows up, by the way, is a dirty play. It's cheating in hockey. When you stick your elbows up when somebody comes to check you, you put your elbow up, that hits them in the face. It's a dirty play. I mean, it's so suiting for the Liberals because that's all they do is lie, cheat, and steal. Moving ahead, what's Mark Carney doing?
For now, everyone can.
Oh, Canada.
He's watching the hockey game. Of course he is. That's what he's doing. He's not working because he doesn't do much of that. Moving ahead, we've got this Main Street poll. This is outrageous. We're just going to say that right off the bat here. This is in Alberta. This is not in the Maritimes. We're seeing 48% for the Conservatives and 45% for the Liberals in Alberta. You see this? Minus 14 for the Conservatives and plus 15 for the Liberals. I don't even know what to think about this. Aside from, this is coming from Main Street. They put out a poll just before Pierre's leadership review, which was totally bunk. And is this another bunk poll? I don't don't know, because if this is real, then there's some serious problems in our country where we have even liberals now in Alberta. That Mark Carney's plan is working to just completely fool Canadians. They have no idea what's going on. So we got someone posting the graph here. I mean, as we see Justin Trudeau's numbers here, the red, and then kaboom, Carney comes in. Do we have Albertans getting fooled by Mark Carney? We also got another one here. So this is voting intention on Polywave of just Alberta regional polling. And this is all the last polls. And what do we see here? Well, the support dropping. On here, it shows an average of the aggregate 54% to 31%. If we look at the last few polls, we can see 32 to 53, 26 to 61, 33, 52. But then this one's getting closer here, 34 to 44. And the one we just looked at is 48 to 45. So you can see how close this is getting now. Is this some funny data or what's happening? And with that, we got Mark Nixon posting this. Alberta independent organizers have gone international. That's right. There's nothing against them going to other places, in this case, Arizona, to petition for Alberta separation. And that's exactly what they've done.
Now, signs promoting the Alberta separatist movement have appeared south of the border in Yuma, Arizona. Stay Free Alberta posted this image online calling on snowbirds to show up at an event and sign the petition aimed at triggering a referendum. In a statement to CTV News, Elections Alberta says signatures collected outside the province are allowed.
Interesting play. At this point, though, if that polling data is correct, then that's not going to work. All Conservatives, including Alberta separatists, Saskatchewan separatists, we all have to come together to defeat these Liberals. Moving ahead, talking about Matt Genereux, we've got Blacklocks posting this. I thought this was very interesting. This is in regards to Matt Genereux's special advisory position. It says here, question, Toronto News Talk 10, the host saying, what does a special advisor on economic security partnerships do? So that's Matt Genereux's official extra title he got from Mark Carney, Special Advisor on Economic and Security Partnerships. And the answer here, Blacklock's editor Tom Korski, exactly what he's told. So the question is, how much is Genereux getting paid for this? Who's paying for this? Is it straight out of the Liberals' coffers and we don't get to know? Is he getting extra $100,000 a year? Is this just straight up a bribe? With that, Matt Genereux spotted here in Subway in Smithers, BC, of all places. So he's kind of hard to see at first, but if you look, he's just behind the counter here. You just look carefully there. He pokes up here. There he is. There he is. So while we're talking about Matt Genereux, I decided to look through his travel expenditures here. And here's all the travel he's done in, I don't know, the last year or so. Here's all his different flights. So we just go through them a bit here. Ottawa to Edmonton and back. We've got Ottawa to Vancouver, to Victoria, to Montreal. Then we got Victoria, Montreal, Ottawa, Edmonton, Montreal, Victoria, Victoria, Montreal, Ottawa, Montreal, etc., going down here. So basically all those same ones. We got another one, Edmonton, Vancouver, Victoria. I've come to the conclusion that I think Matt Genereux, he went home to be with his family. I've seen rumors that he lives in Vancouver, despite him being the MP for Edmonton Riverbend. That might make sense. If he's now living in Vancouver, he can still go over and see his kids, which are in Victoria, but then he would be running for a riding in Vancouver. So maybe Carney promised him one of these. And which one would he promise him? Well, what about Jonathan Wilkinson's riding here? 100% probability, 60% Liberal, 30% Conservative. Isn't Jonathan Wilkinson one of these guys that's going to be out the door? Remember this story from last year? This is just September 17th, 2025. Top Trudeau era ministers headed for diplomatic appointments. We've got Jonathan Wilkinson in here. Former Energy Minister Jonathan Wilkinson has been offered a post in Brussels as ambassador to the European Union. Back then, he was still considering the offer. Is he going to take this offer? Is he going to step down? And then Matt Genereux takes over his riding here, which is an absolute lock, 100% lock that the Liberals will win this. And then Genereux can continue to get his big fat cat salary while living in Vancouver, close enough to still see his kids. I don't know. Moving ahead, we've got Liberal pundits here on CBC throwing a hissy fit over Conservative MPs not going on CBC for quite some time. I mean, they've been back on there more recently. They didn't do it before the election because, well, CBC's full of a bunch of liars.
And I think there's a lot of self-inflicted problems. MPs were kept out of this room for a very long time, kept off CBC.
Out of this room, you mean?
Yeah, and told that they could not come on CBC. And then Jamil Javani wants to go to DC and he can say whatever he wants. And he says one message to Breitbart, says another message to the National Post, says another on Twitter. You know, if I was in that caucus, I'd be annoyed too.
This guy's ridiculous. Maybe the reason Conservatives wasn't going on CBC is because they lie.
There's some people in Alberta
are kind of warming up to the prime minister because he has taken markedly different positions on issues that matter to them, whether it be energy development or climate change measures that he's backed off on. So maybe Mr. Jenneru feels like his writing is starting to move in that direction as well. Yeah, it's all made up anyway.
This clip's not going anywhere anytime soon. CBC have proven themselves to be a bunch of liars. We know they're liars, and then now we've got them outright lying. And I tried to play devil's advocate with that clip. What else could the producer in her ear, Rosemary's got a earpiece in, and the producer said something to her, but what could they have said to her that would warrant that response? I can't think of anything aside from, good job on that was really believable. Ha ha ha. That's all made up anyways. What else could be said in her ear that would make sense there? Now, I do think it's good that Conservative MPs are back on CBC, because otherwise they'll just say the lies and no one else can rebut it. So you have to get them on there to hold them accountable. Now, they're incredibly hypocritical, as we've got Nate Erskine-Smith here going down to Boston. Isn't this the same thing as Jamil Giovanni going down to America? Or is it because he went to meet with JD Vance? As Mark Nixon pointing out here, I can't wait for the Liberals and CBC to do 24-hour coverage on Nate Erskine-Smith's treasonous acts speaking to the U.S. Of course, it's a double standard.
So you could have bought a home for $20,000 and you could have sold it for $2 million, and that is all tax-free. Now, you're not going to meet a young person in Canada who thinks that that's an acceptable state of affairs. You're also not going to meet a person who owns a home and has benefited from that windfall gain and thinks it's okay to retroactively tax it. So you're going to have to navigate through that, I think, in a different way. And there are a couple of different ways of tackling that core challenge of housing as a home first and investment second.
So is he a treasonous monster now because he's talking about housing down in America, in Boston? That's not all, folks. We've got another panel here having a meltdown about right-wing influencers, because having an opinion and putting it on the internet is apparently a problem to these people, because they don't like that now everyday people have the same voices they would have on there if they still posted on there. Of course, they stop posting on there because they get humiliated so badly.
By the caucus, you basically have a bunch of MPs who are restless, who have been sitting on the opposition benches for a really long time. And it was one thing to take kind of the heavy-handed approach of the leader when he was plus 25 points in the polls, but now he is dragging the party down with him. He is deeply unpopular. They feel that Pierre Poilievre is not talking about the issues that their constituents are talking about. Andrew talked about Donald Trump. That is key. Up until this week, Pierre Poilievre hadn't mentioned Donald Trump, really. So there's that. There is the way caucus is being managed. Jamil Giovanni gets to go down to D.C., as Andrew pointed out, and basically live stream his entire trip. And
that's not true. He didn't live stream anything. Posted a couple of photos. Like, why would she say that? That's not even factually correct. Nate Erskine-Smith has dual cameras in that last presentation we just saw. There was literally 2 cameras pointed at him while he's talking, so he could change the angle of him talking. Is she going to bring that up? Of course not.
These MPs are, playing by the rules, asking the leader if they can go on Power and Politics, another TV program, and talk to the media, and they're being told no. No, absolutely not. And a little bit of...
You notice this? The same coordinated effort, 2 different panels the same day. They always do this. They coordinate their stuff. They push it out, attack to get a message out. These guys are chronic liars. They're doing a grave disservice to Canadians.
That loosened after the election, but not really that much. And so they feel like they don't have a voice. They don't support the direction of the party. They don't understand what their leader is doing. He seems to be more focused on the Twitter influencers than he is on the constituents they hear about at the door. And in some cases, and we've seen with some of the floor crossers, they're more likely to win their seats as Liberals. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the mix that is convincing people that, why are they sticking with Pierre Poilievre when they have the possibility of influencing things in a government that they don't disagree with?
They're trying hard here. They want to get rid of Poilievre. I mean, what she's putting out here is just complete garbage. Pierre Poilievre is not focusing all his energy on right-wing influencers on X. He posts a couple things. He had some videos there cooking some chili. That's not where he's putting all his effort. If somebody challenged her on there to prove it, name some stuff, she would have nothing. These people should be ashamed of themselves. CBC, state-funded bullcrap. Yes, another independent journalist on mainstream media tells how bad Trump is. Here comes the propaganda machine. I mean, that's what they got to do to get Carney his majority. They're all vouching for Carney. Are they all invested in Brookfield? With all that said, we've got Mario sharing this one here from the National Post. U.S. senators introduce a bill in Congress to bring Canadians back to boost sagging tourism. Yeah, I don't think so. The elbows up crew, they're done. They'll never go back to America. They're completely insane. I think many of those people, for the rest of their lives, they will never go back to America. As Mario pointing out here, no U.S. bill is bringing us back to Florida, bro. We can't even get jobs at Tim Hortons. We're broke. Moving ahead, we've got this. The Prime Minister claims to be elbows up for Canada, but at a Canadian Heritage Committee, we learned that more than 60% of all government advertising, it's with U.S. companies. Yep.
Of all government spending on advertising, 63% went to digital media. I mean, that is a bit of a trend. People tend to advertise on Google and Facebook. But, you know, Liberal MPs, including the Prime Minister himself, has said that we're in a trade war with the U.S. and we're spending all that money for digital media that's almost exclusively owned in the United States of America. Is that right? We're in a trade war. We're rewarding these tech giants. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, sort of the policy and the choices in terms of how the overall government advertises would not be with me, it would be with the Treasury Board. That being said, I think generally the government will try and balance ensuring that they can reach citizens where they are and ensure that there's efficient communications with citizens. With absolutely, we are in a trade war, and there have been measures. I believe in the past we've the government at some point banned advertising on Facebook and Instagram. So that has been looked at. That is driven out of the center, primarily out of Treasury Board in terms of overall guidance and approach.
Elbows up. Mark Carney's invested in America 91%, 60% of this government advertising with U.S. companies. Is Pierre the one tied to America, or is it the Liberals and Mark Carney? Moving ahead, we've got this one. Alberta spending $400 million on new water bombers amidst the growing wildfire risk. This is a great thing. I've been saying this for a while. This is where we should be spending our money, not gender-sensitive farming in Uganda and all this wasteful foreign spending. As we see here, the UCP government is buying 5 new Canada Air 515 amphibious water bombers. We got a problem with too many wildfires? Buy some water bombers. This is only common sense. We got Greg posting this one. This is the Mark Carney economy at work at North Bay, Ontario. The newest, largest mall of 2 in the city. Lunchtime on a Tuesday, half the food court stalls are shuttered. No traffic whatsoever. Yeah, this is going to be a bunch of businesses going out of business. There's no way you can pay for these. I mean, look at this. Half of these are shut. No way you can pay for the rent at these places. They're going to be at least $2,000+ a month, even for a tiny stall. Apparently, this is elbows up. Canadians losing their jobs and businesses.